Good evening, everybody. This is Robin with another edition of Horror Pop After Midnight, and my guests tonight are filmmaker Aaron Mento, actor, stuntman Kevin Caliber. How's it going, guys?
Going great.
Doing good, brother. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Yeah, appreciate it.
I was on Tubi because Tubi has a great video library of everything, and I saw your film 16 Bits, which really blew my mind. Tell me how you came up with the idea of 16 Bits, and was Kevin originally the character for, Wax Waster?
Sure, yeah. So Kevin and I had done a movie called Ugly Sweater Party before 16 Bits. That's where I met him. And that's about a killer evil sweater that possesses you and makes you into a killer, basically, at a Christmas party. It's pretty wild. But Kevin and I hit it off really well, and I wrote this for him. So I like to write for actors. So I had an idea about it, and he helped inspire that idea, and then I wrote it with him in mind the whole time. So I think I told him about the concept before he even had a script, and he was like, hell yeah, that sounds great. That sounds like a lot of fun. And so I get inspired by actors. I usually write for actors.
Yeah, let's talk about Kevin, your character. You play Wax Waster, which comes out of a video game. Kind of reminds me of an 80s Nintendo video game. And your character kind of reminds me of Ryu from Street Fighter mixed with Rex Taekwondo from Napoleon Dynamite with that voice. And I was hoping you were going to be like, bow to your sensei, but you didn't do it.
No, that one didn't make the final edit. But no, it was. Yeah, I kind of think of it almost like it was that over-the-top video game character from like the 80s, and I thought of it almost like a wrestling type persona from like old school WWF, just the over-the-top. And we had a lot of fun with it, and we would develop these different sticky type things that he would be, and it just kind of came with the voice and the mannerisms. We were pulling from a lot of the old video games. I mean, obviously, it's I think you nailed it with the Street Fighter reference, because it was a lot of those old references. You can see anybody who knows video games, there's a lot of those little nuggets all throughout the entire film, of course. And from the moment that Aaron came to me with the concept of a video game character just coming to life and, wreaking havoc, but with all of like the best of intentions. That's what's kind of fun about the kind of the anti-hero of it, is that he's still a hero in his own mind. He's doing good, but it doesn't necessarily translate in the real world.
And also, it kind of had a Double Dragon vibe, because, you had, your character Clyde, too. It's like Wax and Clyde. It kind of reminded me of Anti-Heroes Double Dragon a little bit, too.
Totally. Yeah. We definitely pulled from Double Dragon, Streets of Rage, all those kinds of old classic games. The idea that there's also like Mario, right? Because Mario is always number one, and there's Luigi. So the kind of tension between the characters when it becomes, oh, we're not equals, like Wax is number one, and the main character's like, I thought I was player number one. So like that tension that comes in, I thought was a lot of fun.
I think
we even did some Double Dragon. We even did like some we did all sorts of mock artwork for it, and Double Dragon was one of the ones we pretty much just ripped it off. It was, we used it somewhere along for a promo, and it ended up not being like the main thing, but Double Dragon was definitely the biggest inspiration for me. Even watching the video game, it looks like it could have almost been straight out of the old school or like Ninja Turtles or something like that. Just the old school side scroller was, to kind of take that element and make it a visual medium again. And we were very lucky that the gentleman, Scott Butler, who played a character in the movie, he was Flynn. He was one of the friends in the hotel room. And this guy's a world-renowned video game creator. He was working on Avatar. He was working on like $1 billion game while we're shooting this, and he was creating all the imagery pretty much in his free time. So it was almost like it made me think of, I know that there was one of the South Park guys used to talk about that they have the best rendering technology to make animation, and they use it to do South Park, which is pretty funny. So it was almost like that. We have one of the greatest video game builders in the world building out an old school 16-bit video game. So it was a lot of fun. He had a lot of fun doing it.
Aaron, you could have made it into a action horror film. This could have been the straight horror film. I mean, there were so many bloody scenes, so many bloody kills. I mean, there was a pizza cutter with a clean slice through the throat, which was perfect. You must have learned that from a surgeon in the ER room to cut that slit real good.
Yeah, Kevin, you remember you did that on the roof? We just had a pizza cutter, and you were like, "I won't cut your throat, bro. Trust me." And he was like,
Yeah,
"Okay."
trust me.
And
there was a couple of those gags. You're right. It could have been a straight up horror movie. And one of the things was that with the universe that Aaron created, it's almost impossible to not laugh at some of it. And it's just the more that we would do it, and we would we gave people, they were pretty much sticking to the Aaron script, but we would also change the script a little bit and tweak it as we would go. In a lot of cases, he would give us new pages the day before we would shoot, because working in indie films as well, of course, not everything goes as planned. And this was a film that actually, we actually got shut down due to the COVID shutdown. So we had to do pickup shots way later on. So we were able to get most of what we already had, but we had to kind of fill the pieces in a little bit. And Aaron was just, we'd be like, at anything that's funny, it's, right in the middle. It could be the most serious thing. And it's like, if we could slip in a funny laugh without being like a ridiculous joke that we're just hitting you over the head with it, but all the character where I don't think that there's a single character in this movie that didn't make me laugh at least once. And it's funny. It's tough to find that in such a dark world that we're living in.
Yeah, let's talk about one funny character I enjoyed in the film, and that was Pulp the Voodoo Man, who was played by Sean Cohn. Dude, he was phenomenal. He nailed that role to the T. Boy, he sure did take a lot of abuse and beating, and he sure can bust out that feminine quality about him too.
Yeah, he was fantastic. He, when we saw his audition, it was like, that is exactly who I had in mind for this character, and I don't think anybody else could have played it. So he's fantastic. I'm working on another project with him now, and he's just a super talented comedic and dramatic actor.
I couldn't stop laughing. I mean, I had to rewind some of the scenes he did where it showed, where Philip's friends, ignored him on his birthday, and in this room, and he was acting each like their spouses and girlfriends and taking all the torture. I'm like, what?
I met Sean a long time ago. He is a comedian. So he is a stand-up comedian. I met him. I saw him do stand-up. And we always hit it off. And we had a few people audition for it. And when he put on tape, we're like, oh, he's so committed and he's so into it. And I actually just found myself just yesterday rewatching the scene of his final scene.
Yeah.
And him playing like an adolescent boy who's just, and it just, whatever it is, he just, I'm so like, once I start watching, it's one of those ones like, I can't turn it off. Like, he's just, every scene that he was in, it's just, he made it so good.
He sure did. Let's talk about the visual FX and the FX animation. I mean, that was just really good. It kind of reminded me of the MTV animation back from the 80s, especially when the remote control was like beating like a heart, and then you see Philip and his bloody fingers on the controller. That was some MTV vibes right there.
Yeah, absolutely. So our physical effects were done by Alexis Paonesca, I think is how you say her last name. Very talented effects artist, and she knew my influences were like Videodrome and, like you said, like old school, like liquid television, MTV, kind of like low tech with like a goopy kind of, bladdery kind of vibe to it, which I love. So she built all that. And then, like Kevin was saying, Scott Butler did all the video game effects. And then we had Brooke Hubbs, super talented, definitely one of the most important players on the movie, did all of the kind of like digital effects that happen throughout the movie. So like the airplane, like the windows, the blood here and there, all sorts of cool transitions. The credits were done by Scott Butler, but then Brooke did some extra effects work over here. They worked together really well. So we were really lucky. We couldn't have done it without them.
And us,
yeah, absolutely. We they like Brooke was one that he kind of goes above and beyond. We would send him something. He's like, "Oh, I went ahead and I did this." So you see those sequences whenever he's almost like hallucinating and the world was getting glitchy. That a lot of that was Brooke kind of taking it too, because Aaron was the main editor on it. So there was just, and we're just bouncing these ideas around. Brooke was out of state at the time, so we're sending things around and all these little pieces. And with like I said, with what Alexis brought, and it's like you give her what he wanted, and Aaron's like, we're really feeling some Cronenberg vibes, and like give us as much of that, and then just the visual style of it. It was, I'm not sure if it's how Aaron completely imagined, but it was really cool to see the excitement of whenever something worked. He's like, that's exactly like, I have no notes. Like that's the best feeling as a producer, knowing that we're bouncing it around, that we could watch it at the end and we're like, yeah, I don't know what I wanted, but that is as cool as I could have hoped for.
Yeah, let's talk about the music score. I love how you added a little video game to it, and then also you had a cool music score, which I felt was like part of the character of the film in certain scenes off of certain characters.
Yeah, so I know Scott Butler had a little bit of a musical theme that we played with for, I think, the game. The main music throughout the movie was done by Matthew Fessel, who's also our sound and post-sound supervisor. So he's a super talented composer. He had a lot of work that I really liked. He was very close to the project. So we found some of his work to really highlight that kind of vintagey, kind of old school 80s kind of synthesizer vibe. And one of my favorite pieces of feedback we got from the movie was from Sean Whalen, who is a friend of mine. He was starred in Ugly Sweater Party with Kevin. And when he watched the movie, he said, like, you could not tell me that this was not made in the 80s. He was like, this is one of the only movies that I can watch now that, like, I don't know when it was made. Like, I couldn't tell you that this wasn't made then. So that was a great compliment. So I think we all pulled that off to the best of our abilities.
Yeah, also, Kevin, you did the choreography to the fight choreography. How much preparation did you take with the actors to get the certain bloody kill fight scenes just perfect?
Well, luckily for me, we were pulling from our resources of actors that we know and performers. And most of the people were people that I either had hands-on working with before. So like the construction workers, that was Robert Linden was the one that took the really big fall. And he's a professional wrestler and knows how to do those types of things. And he was one that was just all in. And then there was the hot dog vendor that got knocked out. He was actually my co-star in a series that I did called Job Guys. Me and him were the two like brothers in it. So that we already have that built-in trust. But the funniest one was Gregory Blair's character. He played, I forget his name. His name's like Anthony, but he's the guy in the yoga studio.
Yeah.
Walking with the plunger. Who Gregory is such an amazing character actor that he's one that he was also in Ugly Sweater Party. That's actually where I met him, was on Aaron's set. So whenever we knew that we wanted some sort of fun, I mean, everybody in this movie is a character. So whenever we had this character, Aaron was like, hey, how about Gregory? We'll offer it to him. And until he showed up on set, we weren't really sure what he was going to do. And it's one of those deals where he opens up his mouth and then that is what came out. And it steals the show for a minute. And on that day of filming, I came up to him and I go, all right, so the bit is me and you, we're going to be face to face, and then I'm going to pick you up. I'm going to break you over my knee. So I said, you're a yoga guy. Just bend your body this way and then let it go this way. Trust me, I won't actually snap you. And he gives me this look, like this side eye, like, oh, okay, we'll deal with that whenever we get to that part. And I just kind of paused for him. I'm like, oh, we're here right now. Like, this is you're standing in the place. I'm going to break your back, like, right here, right now. He's like, oh, all right. I was like, just go limp. Trust me. And then, of course, we shoot it with angles where obviously we're able to edit it together. But it's one of those ones where without having the trust of people, or even the final showdown with Jeremiah, Jeremiah was another one that was absolutely trusting in everything that we threw at him, no matter what Aaron asked him to do, or I mean, as you see, it's an amazing role for him, but moments it's not glamorous. It's a very vulnerable type of role, and Jeremiah just owned it. And whenever it came to the physicality, me and him, we tussled quite a bit, and then everything else every direction that he took from Aaron, he just embraced every single bit of it and was really into it. So that's the most important thing when it comes to stunts, is having people that are, kind of trusting and willing to let it happen.
And one of my favorite lines one of my favorite two lines in the movie was, I like a vegan cheese mushroom pizza and an oil change orange drink.
Yeah, it's funny is I actually am vegan, but I like to poke fun at vegans because there are a lot of vegans out there that are so persnickety and just kind of like annoying. So that's always kind of shows through every now and then. It's a little self-deprecating humor there. But like Jeremiah, like Kevin was saying, was just all in, and he was fearless. And like, it's one of those things where we're walking on like a tightrope where it's like, I feel like only Kevin could have played Wax Waster. Only Jeremiah could have played his role, And it's like everybody, it's like we're all working without a parachute and we're working very delicately, and we all walked that line together and we came through. So it was a great experience with such a stellar cast and crew.
And then my another favorite part about the yoga studio was where Philip and the Wax were like hitting on those gossip yoga girls. That was so funny. I grew up in California, and those two girls remind me of Valley girls I grew up with in high school, and I couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah, they were both really great. Emily Dom and Christina. Yeah, they did a really good job with that. And I just love, a big influence of mine is like After Hours and Vampire's Kiss. And I love all of the weird characters of the night just kind of all coming into contact with our protagonists that are on their own weird journey. And it's like, just kind of like, what the hell is out there? If you really went out there and went into some paths that you normally don't go into, you might see some of these people,
Something, I wish I had the real video game of that. I wish that was a real legit video game. I would so put that in my old Nintendo and play that sucker, man.
I think we toyed with the idea of releasing a game version of it. Maybe down the line we'll do it. We'll see.
Also, the cool thing about the film is you threw a curveball. There was a twisted ending too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the movie definitely is not very predictable. You can't really tell where it's going to go, and it does have a pretty weird, twisted ending that kind of puts the whole movie in a new kind of context if you watch it again.
Also, do you think there will be a sequel to it? Will we ever see, Wax and Philip ever again?
I'd love to do a sequel. I know Kevin and I talked about it. I think that all depends on how the movie does. So if enough people check it out, we get enough kind of a good response to it, then we could probably do a sequel.
I would certainly love to. I'd love to strap it back on and be Wax anytime. It was about as fun of a character as I've ever had a chance. And with just working with Aaron, he's just such a fun filmmaker to work with, and certainly alongside. Because the first film that we did together, I had a smaller part in, but just being a part of the atmosphere. And then whenever he approached me about fully developing and coming on as a co-producer and being in for the long haul. I couldn't be happier with the way the experience went. It's like I'm definitely ready to make bring Wax back and do it again. And there's certainly, it's one of those things where we could creatively we could do it in a million different ways. There's no one way to do it. And even with the way that it did end, that kind of changed a little bit as we went. At one point, it was going to go a different way. Then there was one way that was even darker. And then Aaron just kept coming up with different things. And it almost got to the point where I watched the final edit and I was like, how is this going to end? We shot a bunch of different stuff. What's even going to be the ending? And then that's Aaron just being there throughout his editing, not sure, or not necessarily not sure, but, creating the proper vision for the way that it's going to play out.
The game system that you made in the film, was that a Super Nintendo system that you made out of it with the handle, with the controllers?
No, it was actually, it was based on, I looked up these weird Russian bootleg game systems. They were like Russian bootlegs of Super Nintendo systems. They looked kind of like that, like homemade almost. They were like rough, and like I guess they would sell them on the black market and you could play. I think they would work with Super Nintendo games. So we kind of made it like this weird off-brand third-party game system that he had, which definitely like resembles a little bit of the Nintendo and Super Nintendo, just like the Russian ones did. But it feels like off, like it reminds you of that, but it feels like some weird off-label version of it.
Kevin, do you still have the red bandana?
Oh, of course. Yeah, I still rock. I rock the red bandana. I still everything. I got wax in a box still, and I definitely still rock that. I still rock the belt buckle. I still got the necklace. All those little details. I definitely still sport. And I'm not going to give that up anytime soon.
So, Aaron, what's your next film project you're going to be doing?
I've got a couple in the pipeline now. So I wrote a horror musical that Kevin's involved in as well, and we're recording some of the music for that right now. And it's kind of like Purple Rain meets Evil Dead. So it's like a R&B pop kind of musical mixed with horror. It's going to be wild. So that's next in the pipeline. And I got a few other ones. I got one with Sean Cohn, who played Pulp. I'm making a movie with him and his comedy partner, Eric Hofstad, who does the YouTube channel Comet Etiquette. Really funny guy. So I got that going on. And then a couple other ones too. So, but I'm really looking forward to the horror musical.
I'm sold. I can't wait to see that. I'll definitely have to have you come back on. I like stuff like that. Kevin, I watched another film of yours, which was on Tubi, Craving, about, addiction to, drugs, sex, and this mysterious, godlike person and all that. I want to tell you something. That movie was beyond messed up.
Good. That's what we were going for. That was a Jason Horton project. He actually helped us in the developing of this one as well. He's got another great podcast called Filmmakers On that he does. And we shot that one out, and we're getting that band back together as well. The next one's going to be called A Hard Place. We're actually still in the tail end of our Indiegogo on that. We're going to shoot that one this fall, so hopefully that one will be out in the spring, and it's going to be every bit as messed up as Craving, just in a little bit of a different scope, but same type of feel and vibe with the creatures and the horror and all that. But Craving was a great experience. I love making that one.
Okay, Aaron and Kevin, where can everybody find you on social media?
For me, it's just my name @Aaron Mento everywhere. For Twitter, Instagram, those are usually the ones I'm most on. Although Twitter is slowly going down the toilet. But so Instagram, yeah.
Yeah, you can find me at Kevin Caliber, and as well on Facebook, I have an extra page for my production company, which is 50 Caliber Productions. We have a whole bunch of projects up there, including this one and my series Job Guys, and all the other future projects. So there's a bunch of them in the pipeline, so please follow along, and hope you enjoy.
All right,
and,
now
my company's Ocular Migraine Productions, and that's the company that did Ugly Sweater Party. So if you like 16 bits, Ugly Sweater Party right now I think is available on Amazon. You can rent it, and we have hard copy Blu-rays, which we produced ourselves. So you can find those online too.
Now let's all go out and get that vegan cheese mushroom pizza and an oil change George drink. How's that sound?
Sounds good to me.
You guys, thank you so much for coming on. It was a blast.
Thanks for having us. I'm really glad you enjoyed the movie. So thank you.
And everybody, thank you for listening.